Hello, comrades. The topic for our discussion today is the sources of ancient India, part 2. In the last section, we covered the archaeological sources, and this section will focus upon the literary sources. So, the focus of today's session would be a brief introduction about whatever we are trying to discuss. Secondly, we'll discuss inscriptions, and thirdly, literary sources, which would include the Indian accounts as well as the foreign accounts, which are needed to study the ancient Indian history. So let's start. Firstly, the inscriptions. So it must be noted that epigraphy refers to the study of inscriptions. These form a crucial source to ascertain the historical context of the period under study. It must be noted that as far as ancient India is concerned, the medium of inscriptions seems to be Prakrit in and around 3rd century BC, and Sanskrit was adopted in the 4th century AD. Further, Harappan scripts have not been deciphered yet, but they are pictographic in nature. What has been deciphered and what forms a crucial source in the corpus of the literary sources, especially the inscriptions, are the Ashokan inscriptions. They have been a source of great historical importance, and some of the features of Ashokan inscriptions are they were mostly written in the Brahmi script, which is written from left to right. However, some were also written in the Kharoshthi script, that is written from right to left. In the northwestern region of the empire, Greek and Alamaic scripts have also been unearthed. Interestingly, Firoz Shah Tughlaq had also attempted to decipher the script of Ashoka, but they were finally deciphered by James Princip, a civil servant from East India Company in the 19th century. It is pertinent to also note that various types of inscriptions have been classified on the basis of the subject matter dealt in it. These include the royal orders, for example, the Ashokan inscriptions, which deal with the political, administrative, and religious orders of the emperor. The next one is the votive orders. Votive refers to the vows, which is basically referred to any religious dealings. For example, the inscriptions related to Buddhism and Jainism. Eulogizing is the third type of inscriptions, which means that whenever the ruler is being praised in any of the inscription, it's called eulogizing. An example of this can be Allahabad inscription of Samudragupta. And the last one that has been classified by the historians is the donative type of inscriptions. Donative refers to grants or the gifts that was given by the emperor for religious purposes or charity and so on. Now let's move on to the literary sources. Although Indians know writing from as early as 2500 BC, the oldest manuscripts are not older than 4th century AD. So this means that although writing had been a feature on the Indian soil, the manuscripts in the form of sources which have some physical evidence or tangible sources, Tamapatras and such, so on and so forth, have been found from the 4th century AD onwards. Now, the epics and the Puranas seem to have been compiled in the 4th century AD as well, and Mahabharata seems to be older than the Ramayana, which is also against what we generally believe. We believe that Ramayana was older than the Mahabharata, but as per the sources and the timing of the sources, it has been ascertained by scholars that Mahabharata seemed to be older than the Ramayana. Now, talking about the Vedic times, the Vedas provide information on social and cultural life of the people, but the time and place of these assertions cannot be ascertained because there are many interpolations, which means additions to the Vedas. So it's very difficult to find the real context of these social and the cultural features, but they do exist. Talking about the post-Vedic times now, there are sources which we find such as the Griha Sutras, which deal with family, funeral occasions or celebrations. Then there is Sulva Sutras, which has been said as the beginning of geometry because certain measures are being given to prepare some ritualistic deeds. So it seems that as if geometry saw its beginning from Sulva Sutras. Further, the literary sources can be classified as religious texts, for example, the Jatakas of the Buddhists, which give information about the social and the cultural life during the 5th to the 2nd century BC. Also, the Jain texts, some of them give a lot of information about the political life during during the time when Mahavira was alive. Then there are secular texts. In the secular text, examples can be cited of the Dharma Sutras, which deal with a number of issues, for example, laws, properties, family, and so on. And the period to which Dharma Sutras deal is 5th to 2nd century BC. Then comes the Smritis, which also deal with similar types of issues, laws, rules governing the society. But Smritis have been dated from 1st to 6th century AD, which is later from the Dharma Sutras. Other than that, Arthashastra by Kautilya also finds evidence as a secular text. We also have a literary text, Sangam literature, which talks about the life of the Tamil people, social, economic, political aspects during the 1st and 6th century AD. Moving ahead, let's talk about some of the foreign accounts. We all know that there were several passes and areas through which a number of foreign travelers came to India, some of them for religious purposes, some of them to explore. So, in that context, mention in the ancient India can be given to Indica by Megasthenes, which deals with the reign of Chandragupta Maurya. In the Greek work, we have Ptolemy's work, which discusses about the geography of India. Some of the Chinese travelers like Yun Sang, who came during the reign of Harsha, and Fain, who was to be found during the Gupta period, have talked about the trade, commerce, economy, social aspects, so on and so forth, about the period in which they traveled across India. Now, this was about the foreign accounts. As we have almost discussed about the archaeological sources in part 1 and now the literary sources, the inscriptions, and so on, it's very important that in conclusion we deal with a very important aspect that has been a cause of debate amongst the scholars, and that causes the historical sense found in the Indians. So, Western scholars mostly had alleged that Indians lacked the historical sense or history writing or the practice of recording the things of the past. But a lot of research has been done into this question, and now it has been proved or put forth by various scholars that the people of ancient India did have historical sense, and this has been proved by citing examples of inscriptions which gave the information along with the time and place to which it dealt. So a context was given. If we talk about the Puranas or the biographical works of the kings, they discuss about the cause and effect of the events. All these are just the clear evidences of the historical sense being depicted in the works of the ancient people. In the regard of the historical sense, the best example of historical writing can be cited the work of Kalhan, which is called Raj Tarangini, the Stream of Kings. It is the biography of the kings of Kashmir. And this very example, this very book of history, shows very pertinently and very explicitly that the people in ancient India did not lack historical sense. With this, we come to an end of the topic Ancient India Sources, in which we discussed about both archaeological sources, the literary sources, as well as the historical sense question. Now, let's end the discussion on a positive note with a quote by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Cultivation of mind should be the ultimate aim of human existence. Thank you.